What will happen in 2026? I'll project. This is Locked On UConn.
You are Locked On UConn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy New Year and welcome back to another episode of Locked On UConn. I am Matt Schonvisky, a two-time graduate, 10-year credentialed media member, and host of the only daily UConn sports podcast, Locked On UConn, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one sports podcast network in the world. Please hit the like and subscribe button, and thank you for making this your first listen each and every single day. On today's show, we are making 2026 predictions. Up first, will UConn make another dual championship run? Then, parity is here in college football. What does that mean for UConn football? And finally, will there be a national championship from stores outside of the hardwood? But first, today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. So up first on our best of three predictions for the new year, UConn basketball. Clearly, they are peaking or getting better and getting closer to their peak, both on the men's side and on the women's side. We talked on yesterday's show about how things are coming together, both on the men's side and on the women's side. Women's side, listen, there's not much to not like about their performance this season thus far. Completely undefeated to this point in the year, complete utter domination of every opponent that they have, and the growth that they're showing, especially their newcomers like Blanca. She continues to impress me. She continues to impress, I think, everybody that watches her. And it just adds another dynamic and another dimension to this UConn women's basketball team, who is, oh, so deep. Sarah Strong, Azzi, they all continue to get better. And we talked about this with Dan Connolly maybe a week and a half ago, ahead of the Iowa matchup. Just a quiet confidence that Azzi Fudd has shown as she's grown into a leader on this team. She often, sometimes, when you're talking about Sarah Strong and Blanca and what she's bringing, maybe she gets overlooked a bit. But she continues to perform each and every single day and has propelled her game to another level. To me, she's the leader of the team. She's got the quiet confidence, and she's playing free. She's playing the game like it's supposed to be played. And I don't think any longer the injuries that she had early in her career are really impacting her whatsoever. It's not even at the forefront of her mind. It's not even at the back of her mind. She's just playing free and easy, no pressure. And when you do that, that allows you to excel and get the most out of yourself. And that is what I've seen from Azzi so far this year. And I expect that to carry on throughout the rest of the 2025-2026 season here as we get into January, February, March, and then ultimately April. Sarah Strong, she also continues to get better and better and better. So this team continues to gel, like I talked about on yesterday's show. They continue to come together. Their defense is suffocating. We all know that. They're rebounding the basketball. They're sharing the basketball. And everybody that gets an opportunity is performing. And if you're Gino, you can't ask for more than that. So on the women's side, I don't see an end in sight to this win streak. They now have won 52 straight Big East Conference games. I think they've now hit 30 in a row overall. They've got 3 more Big East games, and then they got Notre Dame. That's going to be their first real test, I think, over the next couple of weeks. And then you got the Tennessee game on February 1st, the revenge game that we talked about a few shows ago. So on the women's side, smooth sailing until you get to Notre Dame, smooth sailing until you get to Tennessee. And that's going to be positioning yourself and making sure you're taking care of business the way you should to get a great seeding, heading in a positive seeding and a seeding that allows them to really get the most out of what they have and position themselves well for a March and April run. So that's on the women's side. On the men's side, that Xavier win, my goodness, it's exactly what you wanted to see. Came out of the gate, so their slow starts are no longer. They've gotten over that hump. The 3-0 in Big East play. And they're healthy, relatively. Jaden Ross missed the game at Xavier, but there's so much to like. There's so much to like. And Alex Karaban, we talked about Azzi being the leader. Alex Karaban, the leader over here on the men's side. He's just doing it all at the moment. And it's exactly what this team needs because, yes, you have all these pieces. You have all this talent, but you need that clear leader of the team. And that's exactly what Karaban brings to the table. He's got the experience. He's got the seniority. He's got the mental makeup. He's got the experiences. And he's got the relationship with this entire roster, with the coaching staff, with Dayton Hurley in particular. And him, Solo, Terrace Reed, playing cohesive basketball. Braylon Mullins is starting to light it up and not shy of putting the ball up. 5 of 10 from 3 at Xavier. He's only going to continue to get better and better, and his shot is so silky smooth. He's got that mid-range game, too, where he can take a couple dribbles, create some space for himself, and he can hit the mid-range jumper, which he did against Xavier a few times. So the depth, the coming together of this unit as well, just like on the women's side, I mean, all signs, to me, point to both making the Final Four, both competing, both taking care of play in the Big East, and then ultimately taking care of business in March and ultimately April, and let's see what the matchups are. But I really like both teams to make a deep, deep run in the upcoming NCAA tournament to the point where, hey, I foresee, if we're projecting out what we see happening in 2026, dual championships. So that's number one, basketball-wise. On the other side of the break, we will talk about college football. And listen, there's more and more parity. We're seeing it each and every single day. We'll talk about that on the other side. Fridays already feel different during basketball season, and FanDuel is making them even better. Every Friday night before the games tip off, FanDuel gives fans a new way to kick off the weekend with NBA Happy Hour. NBA Happy Hour is your official pregame, a limited time window where special offers drop right inside the FanDuel app before the action starts. Fridays from 6 to 7:30 Eastern have become appointment viewing with NBA Happy Hour. Opening the FanDuel app during Happy Hour always brings something new. Boosts, bonuses, and surprises. It's easy to check the weekly special before tip-off and make a move before the window closes. The timing is perfect, right before the games, right before the weekend starts. It adds extra energy to Friday night basketball without overthinking it. So before tip-off, check the FanDuel app and see what's dropping during NBA Happy Hour every Friday from 6 to 7:30 p.m. Eastern. A little basketball, a little action, and a whole lot of Friday energy. That's NBA Happy Hour, only on FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NBA. Back in on Locked On UConn on this New Year's Day edition, And we're switching gears from basketball and a projection of what's going to transpire here in 2026 over to the gridiron. And I think we're going to see it later today. I think we're going to see Indiana put the beat down to Alabama. And I think that signals and is going to reinforce the fact that, listen, NIL has brought true parity to college football and the college football world. It's why you are seeing schools like Indiana, like UConn, be undefeated in regulation. Two programs that have historically not had strong football years. UConn in particular over the last decade. Indiana especially as well. I mean, Tom Allen did not do that great a job, and that's why Kirk Cinnetti's there. Both of those programs being able to have runs like they've had. And UConn, yes, we can all poo-poo the schedule and all that. They've won 9 games in back-to-back seasons. We know the bowl game didn't go according to plan for a myriad of reasons, and coaching staffs have changed. But listen, in years past when the staffs and turnover have transpired, it's difficult to recover because you have trouble bringing in and maintaining consistency with the roster and things of that nature. This current state of college football, as well as NIL and what you're able to do from that standpoint, is going to allow you to pick up the pieces of a roster being blown apart by coaching changes and be able to single-handedly in 1 year have complete turnover and put together a roster that a new coaching staff is comfortable with and one that will be competitive given this is a state institution that has the backing of donors and is continuing to invest in the success of football. So, as opposed to years past where, listen, you really couldn't buy a team. In this day and age where you are allowed to invest in a roster and put the necessary resources in place to build out a competitive football team, UConn being a state institution and with the allocation of money to be able to fund a team, is in a position to really make a statement here and continue upon the success that Jim Mora and his staff had. So yes, there are a significant, yesterday we talked about 32 players in the transfer portal. There's probably going to be more as the portal opens on Friday, January 2nd, tomorrow. What does that mean? Well, yes, you're losing a bunch of contributors and key pieces to the 2025 version of UConn football. But that also opens up a number of spots to build out a team that Coach Candle and his staff want to bring in to fit what they are trying to do as a staff. Schematically, offensively, defensively, on special teams. Because, yeah, the entire coaching staff has changed. So the overall approach is going to change with how you attack games each and every single week. On yesterday's show, we talked about Cam Edwards, Mel Brown, and the entire running back room entering the portal. What Jim Mora and his staff and Coach Samus and his staff offensively wanted to do running the football through the outside zone scheme may not be what Coach Candle and his staff want to put in place. Remains to be seen. We'll see. But because schemes are changing, that's also a factor into how you handle this. And again, as opposed to years past, you can get players here that fit what you're trying to do because you can pay them money. And you also have the prior relationships where the transfer opportunities in the rules are completely open, where you can bring over the key pieces from your prior stops at Toledo and the other schools that these coaches are coming from to be able to build out your roster in a way where you're not completely starting from square one, where you're able to step into a new college football season with a brand new roster, a brand new staff, a brand new scheme, and be competitive. And the SEC, going back to parity, so all that helps UConn, right? In the grand scheme of things, UConn's not going to be behind the eight ball like they would have been, say, a decade ago. And the proof is in the pudding. Indiana, Alabama, and the Rose Bowl. Indiana has not won a bowl game since 1991, 1992. And yet here they are, the number one team in the country, undefeated, ready to take on the power of college football from the last couple of decades. And they're favored. Indiana Hoosiers football favored over the perennial power Alabama. And this is not a fluke. This is the current state of college football. If you look at the SEC's performance in bowl games, 2 wins. And I think maybe their only wins have came against each other. Or Texas beat Michigan. And then I think the other one was a matchup in the college football playoff. When these schools in the SEC, who are so-called the best conference in college football today, I say that's false. And I say that's false because of what we're seeing happening in bowl games. The SEC has not won a national championship since 2022. I don't think they're going to win again this year. And when you see schools like Indiana being able to come in and push people around, it just speaks to, hey, there is true parity. And when the playoff gets expanded, I think you're going to see a rush this offseason. So looking ahead to what happens in 2026, I think you're going to see a rush to get the playoff expanded and a rush by conferences like the Big Ten and the SEC to get a guaranteed certain amount of games because they are going to recognize that NIL means any school in the country can invest and be competitive and be a top-tier team, regardless of what your historical record has been, regardless of what your name is, regardless of where you reside. College football is not what it used to be. It's an arms race funded by money. And whoever ponies up the amount of money to be competitive and puts it together in a certain way, see Kirk Cincinnati at Indiana, you will be competitive and you will unseat the historical powers. So that's what college football is becoming. And that's why UConn can be competitive in this environment, because as of today, they are allocating the resources to do so. And they are promising coaching staffs that they will continue to fund at an even higher rate than they have previously. And where did we see? Back-to-back 9-win seasons. So I think you're going to see more and more of these schools outside of the SEC, outside of the Big Ten, being competitive and pushing teams around and unseating what the so-called best conference in football is, the SEC. Because this is going to be another year, more than likely, that the SEC does not win a national championship. And the national media, led by ESPN, is going to continue to run PR for the SEC. They are. They've invested in an inexorbitant amount of money and put all their eggs in the SEC's basket. And what they're trying to do here through the PR campaigns of, oh, well, the G5 doesn't belong in the playoff, BS. You're seeing it with Indiana. You're seeing it with other schools in the playoff. Yes, you're going to have historical powers be competitive. But each and every single year, they are not going to win out. Because the introduction of NIL and the introduction of money into the system is impacting the overall results on the field. So yes, the SEC is not a bad conference. I'm not saying they are. They're no longer head and shoulders above everybody else. You've seen it the last 2 years. This is going to be the third year in a row the SEC does not win the national championship. And it's because of the NIL and the money being spread around college football is helping lead to more competitiveness. And the results speak for themselves. Scoreboard speaks for itself. So we talked about basketball. We talked about college football. On the other side, we will look at what else is possible here this year with UConn. And we'll look ahead to, hey, on the ice, on the diamonds, does UConn have a chance to win another national title? There's nothing like college football season, tailgates, packed stadiums, and being right there in the middle of it all. The energy, the bands, the moments you remember forever. But actually getting tickets, that part used to be frustrating with long queues, logins, and prices jumping at checkout. That's why Game Time gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to unlock amazing college football tickets and experiences, just like this afternoon's Rose Bowl out in Pasadena, in just a few taps. I opened the Game Time app to look at upcoming college football games and was surprised how fast it was to find great seats. I loved being able to view the view from my seat before buying, so I knew exactly what I was getting. The zone deal stood out. You pick the section, Game Time picks the seats, and you save even more. Seeing college football tickets starting as low as $25 made it easy to plan a game day trip. Knowing prices include all fees up front makes the whole process stress-free. Take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for 20% off or $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Back in on this final segment of the New Year's version of Locked On UConn. And we are switching gears from projecting out what's going to transpire on the hardwood as well as the gridiron and looking across all sports here at UConn. And I think there's an opportunity here that we see a national title from stores outside of basketball this year. And it's going to be in a sport that is going to be something new. So you look at three opportunities that I think have realistic opportunities to take home a national championship. Two are on the ice. Men's hockey returns to action this coming weekend. And they are coming back, currently ranked 11th nationally. I think it's one of their highest rankings they've ever had. They sit atop Hockey East. And they have an opportunity in front of them that they could make a run. This is a very talented team that has a number of marquee matchups happening. And listen, when the state of Connecticut decided to invest in top-level Division I men's hockey, because the women have been there, when they decided to invest in UConn men's hockey, it was clear what they were trying to do. They believed that they could build out a very competitive team very quickly, and that's exactly what they've done. They hired the right coach. They've been able to put together year after year a roster that can compete on the national stage. And why is that? Because the region of the country they have. The feeder system that they can have into their hockey program is exactly what they need to be successful. Just like in the state of Ohio, you have all those football schools to be pipelines into the Ohio State football program, same in Michigan. Hockey is a huge sport here in New England. And UConn, being the brand that they are, they're going to attract top-level recruits. They do it in men's and women's basketball. They've done it in baseball. They're doing it in hockey. And you're seeing the results. So they finally return to action Saturday at LIU. And then they're back home Friday, January 9th. Return to Hockey East play against UMass Lowell. So this is the series coming up. You got UMass Lowell, Vermont. You got CT Ice. You got Northeastern, Maine, BC, UMass, New Hampshire. And then Providence to close the year. Very strong schedule back half of the year for the men. I misspoke earlier. They have 10 wins. They don't have 9. On the women's side, you also have an opportunity here. So the men are sitting at number 11. Depending what poll you look at for the women, you're sitting at number 7 and number 6 nationally. (13, 3, and 2). A chance to compete for a national championship. So as the men have improved and you build out the hockey arena that they put on campus, Toscano Ice for them, not only did you help excel the men's program, you've also built, and this is a credit to Dave Benedict, you've built up your women's program to be one that is nationally competitive against the likes of those that play in the Big Ten. Wisconsin, Ohio State, Minnesota, Penn State. Then you got Minnesota, Duluth, and then it's UConn. And Northeastern. And Quinnipiac. So as we look ahead to later this year, you've got opportunity on the men's side on the ice and on the women's side on the ice to put together seasons that really can turn some heads and maybe put some trophies and some cases on campus. But that's not all. You've also got baseball, who, goodness gracious, Jim Penders continues to put together rosters that are going to compete nationally. And I think this year is going to be no different. As we get into baseball season, we will get some players on here. We'll get Penders on here. We'll try to get Coach Penders on here. Same thing on the ice. Maybe we get Coach Kavanaugh. Maybe we get some players both on the men's and women's side. Because I think this year could be very, very special. And yes, on the basketball side, we talked about what we think is going to happen. Football is where it's at. But across the athletic department, what David Benedict has done and put together here in Stores, This is legacies type stuff. And the coaches he's brought in and the support he's given and the facilities he's given them with the support from the school and the fan base is allowing UConn to have these programs that can compete on the national stage. And I think these programs, one of them, it will finally get over the hump this year to the point where they're competing and if not going to win a national championship. So as we look ahead to 2026, just a quick recap. We will project dual championships on the hardwood. We project that Jason Candle is going to bring in a roster and NIL is going to help UConn remain competitive and build upon their back-to-back 9-win seasons. And then our third projection for 2026, winning a title outside of basketball, whether that's on the ice, on the diamond, TBD, but I think there's an opportunity at hand. And then as we look ahead to New Year's resolutions here on New Year's Day, my commitment to you, the fans and the viewer, I'm going to bring my best each and every single day to give you guys the best content each and every single day that you desire as a fan of UConn. Whether that's football, whether that's basketball, whether that's a hockey fan, baseball, you name it. I commit to you that that's exactly what we were going to do here on Locked On UConn. So with that, thank you for tuning in to today's episode of Locked On UConn. Please hit the like and subscribe button. And for a second listen, check out Locked On Sports Today, hosted by Peter Bukowski, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. And as always, go Huskies and Happy New Year.